Over the past few days, I got to try out a preview build of WWE 2K Battlegrounds, and I can honestly say it is the most fun that I've had in a multiplayer wrestling game for a long time. However, at the same time, the build that I played did have its problems, and there were quite a lot of them. So we're going to get into that, but before we do, I do want to point out that this was an unfinished preview build, therefore there is the chance that a lot of the problems that I will address will be fixed in the final game. However, because of last year and the way that 2K20's problems were still very much apparent when the game released, then these issues aren't something that I can avoid talking about, as I want to give you my honest impression and let you know just what the state of the game was when I played it. So again, this is based on the preview build, but I will be doing a review of the game once it is out, therefore if you're unsure of getting the game, maybe wait for the review before you decide. Let's start out talking about the gameplay then, as the game has been marketed as a multiplayer brawler, and that's definitely where the game comes to life, as the gameplay is a lot more fast paced than it was in All Stars, and it much more resembles the likes of Super Smash Bros. In that sense, if you're playing multiplayer, it's a lot of fun, especially with friends, as the matches take place at such a lightning pace, then you're constantly button bashing and staying alert to what's going on, plus with added banter between friends, it really does make for an enjoyable experience. As for offline though, that's where things tend to take a turn for the worse, as once you take out the social aspect and you go up against the CPU, then the game starts to get very repetitive very quickly. One of the main reasons for this is the fact that the game categorises each wrestler into one of 5 different classes: Brawler, High Flyer, All-Rounder, Powerhouse or Technician, with each class having exactly the same moves bar 1 or 2 additions. For example, Jeff Hardy and Rey Mysterio are part of the High Flyer class, therefore they both have exactly the same moveset, with the only differences being their signature and finisher. Now, some wrestlers do have slight changes, as John Cena has 2 moves in his moveset that other members of the All-Rounder class don't, with the same being said for Asuka. She has 3 unique moves in her moveset when you compare her with other members of that same class. The problem with this is that each wrestler feels exactly the same to use, as they all use the majority of the same moves, therefore you're constantly going to see the same moves playing out over and over again. Making this problem worse, players only have 1 grapple move assigned to the A button, as all of the other grapples are performed using button combinations such as left trigger and A. Taking a look at the movesets, which you can access via the pause menu, then you'll notice just how limited the moves are, as brawlers such as Stone Cold, who doesn't have any exclusive moves, only has 12 moves listed, while all-rounders such as John Cena, who do have some exclusive moves, still only have 17. So like I say, this was the biggest limitation that I found by far, as a few matches in, every match felt exactly the same, as no matter who I used, I tend to see the same moves being executed over and over again. Staying with moves, let's talk reversals, as this was something that I actually really liked, as rather than having a set reversal button, the game would instead display one of 4 different buttons to press, either Y, B, X or A, which if you pressed it quick enough would see you reverse the move. The good thing about this is that the timing on the reversal wasn't too quick to miss, as it gives you enough time to press it as long as you're paying attention. However, the cost of the reversal is a percentage of your momentum meter, meaning if you keep reversing moves, then it's going to take longer to gain a finisher. Overall, this was a reversal system that I really liked, as it kept you alert to see which button was shown, whereas in the sim games, because you use the same reversal button, it can get a bit boring once you learn the timings and you know exactly when to press it. Moving on to pinfalls and submissions, these take on much more of a classic approach. However, rather than pressing a single button, you instead have to alternate between pressing the right and left triggers to fill up the meter. This mechanic is again straightforward and really simple to get used to. However, one thing that I really like is the fact that the game doesn't show the pinfall meter if you've taken too much damage, as it shows that there's a point where you just won't be able to kick out. It's also a good way to stop cheats who use rapid fire controllers, as again they can't use this feature to kick out because the meter doesn't appear. Also affecting the kick out meter, you have the match objectives and the crowd bar, as you'll notice that the game will give you objectives throughout the match, which if you follow them, then this will fill up the crowd meter. If you perform these objectives and you fill that meter, then this will change your pin and submission meters to make them easier to kick out of or avoid a submission, although it's a feature that I'm not entirely sold on, as it takes away the control from the player. As for the AI, I want to go on record here and state that this is by far the worst AI that I have ever seen in a wrestling game. Now, there's plenty of reasons that I say that, but the one that I'm going to start off with is targeting, as the AI would target the same player for the entirety of the match and completely ignore the other players. For example, if you're playing a Fatal 4-Way as player 1, then whoever you choose as player 3 will be the person that targets you, whilst players 2 and 4 will target each other. Now, you can switch targets and target someone else by pressing in the right thumbstick. However, should you do this, this won't stop player 3 from targeting you, as they'll continue to constantly follow you around and try to attack you, while players 2 and 4 do the same. Because of this, it essentially makes Fatal 4-Way matches two separate one-on-one matches, with the winner being the first person to score a pinfall or submission. On that note, pinfalls and submissions are also another problem, as the AI won't try to break up pinfalls or submissions even when they're standing right next to them. As for the most annoying problem, the AI in this build would have periods where they would actively try to avoid the player, as they would constantly move around the ring or go to the outside and then refuse to get back in the ring, with this problem being especially apparent whenever you had a finisher. Other problems would also see the AI players stop moving and stand around on the outside, especially after breaking the ring, as they didn't know what they were supposed to do. So because of the problems that I've just listed, this made offline matches much less fun to play, as not only were you seeing the same moves over and over again, but you also had to put up with the AI. So this was my experience playing the standard Fatal 4-Way matches. However, this build also gave us the option to play a 4-way cage match, which I have to say was a lot better and a lot more fun, as the AI in the cage match would actively switch targets to stop people trying to escape. The cage match itself is also a lot of fun, as it features a mechanic that sees players having to climb the cage and collect bags of money to fill up their money meter, which when full will give them the option to escape the cage. Now initially I did question the money element, however after playing it I definitely think it's better for it, as matches are already short, therefore without having to collect the money to begin with, then the match could be over in an instant. Also coming into play is the fact that the cage can become electrified, causing anyone who's climbing it to get shocked and sent flying, which is another good addition to the match, as it makes for some really fun moments when you think you're about to win, only to then see the lights flash and the electric to come on and stop you. Between this and the regular Fatal 4-Way, the cage matches were definitely my favourite, as they proved to be a lot of fun and a lot more enjoyable due to the frantic nature of the match. Finally, let's talk crashes, as this build of the game was nowhere near as stable as other preview builds that I've played, as there were so many times during matches that the gameplay would suddenly slow right down and become unplayable for a few seconds before things would then go back to normal. A lot of the time this would happen when weapons were brought into play or when some of the power-ups were used. However, there were also times where none of those elements were being used and the game would still slow right down and become unplayable. For the most part, the slowdown would only occur for a few seconds before things went back to normal. However, there were times where the game would crash and throw up a fatal error. This error didn't just occur during slowdowns, as it was something that everyone complained about, as the error could pop up at any point in the match, whether it be the first game that you played when you're only a few seconds in, or a longer match where it's 4 to 5 minutes later. Again, because this was a preview build, these slowdowns and the crashes are likely to be addressed in the final game. However, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, because 2K20 was in this kind of state during previews and that wasn't fixed for release, I want to make sure that you're all aware of this in case it's the same in the final version, although I do have a feeling that a lot of these issues will be fixed, especially when it comes to consoles. So there you go, that is my initial impressions of the game. In short, I thought it was a lot of fun to play with friends, but when it comes to offline play, the AI and the limited moves made it very frustrating, therefore I'm hoping we get to see some big improvements for the final version. So I hope this gives you a better idea of the game and what to expect. If you've got any questions that you want me to answer about the preview build, you can leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer what I can. Plus I'll also do a proper review of the game over the weekend once it is out and I get to play the finished version. So please do subscribe for that and turn on notifications, as I'll have plenty more Battlegrounds content coming your way. But thank you for watching this video, have yourself an awesome day, and I'll catch you later.